let's talk to Tom Packer, who's a fellow of UCL and the Centre for US Politics. Tom, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
So we're getting down to the wire, aren't we? I mean, it's less than, 3 weeks away, the US election. It's going to be very exciting. We're going to do a special overnight show here at Talk. We may ask you to join us if you're sitting up watching it. But, you know, a couple of funny things to mention. One, Saturday Night Live lampooning Kamala Harris at the weekend was I think, quite significant, because even they think that she's not really a serious candidate. Also, we've been tracking an awful lot of this money betting that's been going on, and this is one of the trackers that we're watching right here, which tracks the betting markets, and it looks as though in betting markets, certainly, not in polling, Donald Trump is way ahead in almost all of the swing states.
Yeah, so on the first, I mean, it's sort of their job. And as those who haven't seen it, you probably still know it's a satire show. So the whole idea is to take the fun out of everyone. One of the interesting things is they're doing that now. I think it's a liberal show, and I think liberals, when they had this sort of Kamala Harris relaunch, they were very sort of swept along, and now there's a bit more distance. But that doesn't mean they're not still supporting her. On the betting markets, I think I'd be a bit careful about placing too much reliance on them. Like, in big picture, definitely, right? So if Trump is at 80% or Harris is at 80% of the state, it'd be very surprising if they lost that state. But it's actually quite a small lead. It's a few points mostly. So that may just mean that Trump supporters or people who think Trump will win, there's some evidence some Democrats are very nervous about the election. So maybe some of them are having a flutter to try and make themselves feel less bad about the election. I've known people who bet against their preferred political results. What it does show is it's very hard to tell who will win these key swing states that decide the election, and either of them could win it, which is definitely true. It's an extremely close election, much closer and harder to tell than it usually is. Either of them could definitely win it.
Yeah, and I mean, is it still the case that Pennsylvania is the key to everything?
Probably. One never quite knows until election day where the key states are, but Pennsylvania is by far the most likely. It's basically the states that's consistently very close to what's often called the tipping point state. So the state where if you had a uniform swing, puts one of them or the other over the head, and it's one of the biggest states.
Yes.
So that's most likely, and it's one reason I suspect you're going to force me to do this at gunpoint. I'd still probably give Harris a slight edge. Is that in some of the better polls there, she's still just edging Pennsylvania, but it's incredibly close. Like it's for either of these good people could very easily win.
I mean, I assume because it's that close, it will take even longer to count the votes, won't it? Because they'll have to make sure that they're right. I mean, it might be sort of shades of Al Gore and the old hanging chads, mightn't it? Because we were looking back at what happened 4 years ago, and Pennsylvania, I don't think, was declared until the following day, sometime in the afternoon on the day after the actual polling closed. So is that likely to be the case? We may not know on the night who's won.
Oh, absolutely. Particularly if you want a very high emphasis / Trump to concede. We'll see if he concedes, if he loses. I would be just because it's very, there might be an error in the polls either way. So people are thinking it might be like the last two presidential elections, and it might really underrate Trump. So actually, it might be like 2016. We actually learned Trump's won quite quickly, even if Democrats might not want to concede. But errors could go both ways. In 2012, they underrated the Democrats. So it might be that on election night we know quite quickly. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if we're still waiting to be quite sure the day after, like in 2000.
Well, I mean, we've also seen in the past, some of the American networks predicting something which turned out not to be true. So, they're a bit more careful about it these days. Let's have a look at Bill Clinton. He's been out and about campaigning all over the South. Here he is in Georgia talking about immigrants.
I don't think Americans are anti-immigration. They're anti-chaos, right? They don't want us to do more than we can, but they recognize, at least most people do, we got the lowest birth rate we've had in well over 100 years. We're not at replacement level, which means we got to have somebody come here if we want to keep growing the economy.
See, that's that kind of, myth, isn't it, that they've been purporting to say here as well, that, we must get some immigration here because in order to support the pensioners of the future, we need more people to be born, even if they're children of immigrants. And, I mean, it hasn't worked really here. I don't think it's going to work there either.
Well, one thing that does tend to happen is most immigrant groups tend to move to the birth rate of the native population.
Yes.
So, obviously, it can cause lots of ethnic tension if they don't. If it's a solution, it's a very temporary one. I do think
it's also a very dangerous one, isn't it? Because people will react to that and go, hang on a minute, are you saying that, you know, because more sort of, you know, shall we say, indigenous people are not having children, you're going to import a load of them?
I think one way you can frame it is if you have an incredibly low birth rate. It's interesting he's picked up on this, given he has the kind of politics of people who even in the 90s were worrying about overpopulation.
Yeah.
If your birth rate's very bad, that actually causes lots of problems for a society, and you don't have good data. I do think it's notable he was talking about chaos, though, and I think that speaks a bit, him perhaps a bit more than some of the others, how the Democrats have really tried to move on immigration. When Biden came in, it was, oh, Trump is evil and cruel, we need to be really lenient. He introduced lots of easier ways for illegal immigrants to stay in the country and to not be bothered by the state. They're now massively U-turning on that, and that's one reason why Harris might win, because it's Trump's strongest issue. He's miles ahead in immigration. American public opinion is, by American standards, they tend to be a bit more liberal in immigration than Brits. It's a very conservative mood. Majority of the country want mass deportation. Some of the people from professional Hispanic groups have been saying, oh, this is terrible. But then I saw a poll that not only do loads of Hispanics who vote for Trump support deportation, so do about 10% who say they're going to vote for Harris.
Absolutely right. And one final thing, Kamala Harris on the front page of the Telegraph today, accused of plagiarising Martin Luther King Jr. In a book that she wrote, which kind of helped launch her political career. It's not a great look either, is it?
It's not. I haven't actually seen the Martin Luther King one. One of the things about Martin Luther King, of course, is one of these people like Thatcher or Churchill have kind of entered into the language. So I don't know the individual example, but you often sort of plagiarise them without realising a common expression is from them.
I don't think you can plagiarise somebody by accident.
Yeah, what happened is she wrote one of these books to try and launch.
No, I didn't know I plagiarised them. I mean, come on.
Yeah, slightly over 10 years ago, she had a co-author, I think effectively a ghostwriter. I think they may have called it that. It seems like the ghost order for some of the things took them off Wikipedia and things like that. It was almost certainly the ghost order. That would be my assumption.
Yeah, okay.
I would say, though, I would not exactly defend, but I'm an academic. In academic work, if you steal other people's writing and don't say they said this, that is extremely serious.
Yeah,
it's a bit more like a newspaper column and a lot of what she's taken has been little stuff that everyone agrees for. So, and I think it's a very inside race. Is it good for her? Does it reflect brilliantly on her? Absolutely not. Does it suggest she's the world's best manager? No. Is it going to swing many votes, even in a really close race here, or a significant number? I'd be very surprised. But it's not good news for her, and it shows that partly because she didn't go for the primary, there could be bad stories still to come up about her.
Well, if people had listened to me back in the day when I was accusing Joe Biden of plagiarising Neil Kinnock, we might not have had him as president. And then we could have been in a much better place. But there we are. Tom, very good luck to you. Thank you very much indeed. Tom Packer, fellow of UCL Centre for US Politics. We are doing a massive show, by the way, the night of November the 5th, which is bonfire night, of course, here. But it's also election night in the United States of America. I will be with you all the way through the night, so you don't want to miss that. Book yourself in early. Get some sleep in the early part of the evening so you can stay up all night and watch it as it all unfolds. I'm Mike Graham.